Who is Shaquille O'Neal, the big man who became bigger than basketball? Shaquille O'Neal, known simply as Shaq, rose from a dominant force on the court to one of the most recognizable personalities in the world. This video explores his journey from LSU standout to NBA champion, Hall of Famer, and cultural icon. Shaq isn't just an athlete. He's an entertainer, a businessman, a DJ, and a larger-than-life figure whose influence goes far beyond basketball. This video dives into his legendary career with multiple teams, his championships with the Lakers and Heat, and his transformation into a global brand. From thunderous dunks to movie roles, rap albums, and business ventures, Shaq has lived a life as massive as his 7-foot frame. Is he simply one of the most dominant players in NBA history, or the ultimate example of how to build a legacy beyond the game? Today, we explore the life, career, and impact of Shaquille O'Neal, the big diesel who became unstoppable on and off the court.
He tricked me. 3 years, I never spoke to y'all. I thought it was a language barrier there. And then one game, he hit me with a Hakeem Olajuwon bing, bing, fadeaway. And I said, hey, y'all, nice move. And he said, thanks, my brother. I said, whoa. You speak English? He's like, Shaq, you never talk to me. Of course I speak English. Damn.
Welcome to Who Media, the channel where curiosity leads the way. From famous celebs and cartoon icons to legends and hidden names, we uncover the stories behind the people you know and the ones you don't. Shaquille O'Neal. Just the name feels larger than life, doesn't it? When you hear it, you don't just think of basketball, you think of dominance, charisma, laughter, music, movies, and a personality so magnetic it fills every room he enters. But behind the towering frame and booming voice is a story that inspires not only because of what he achieved on the court, but because of the way he embraced life with joy, purpose, and fearlessness. How does someone who could have relied solely on size and strength instead become one of the most versatile icons in sports and culture? And what can we learn from a man who made a career out of both power and play? Shaq's story begins in Newark, New Jersey, where he was born in 1972. His childhood wasn't simple or easy. His biological father struggled with addiction and wasn't a stable presence in his life. But Shaq's stepfather, Philip Harrison, an Army sergeant, stepped in as a guiding figure, disciplining him, challenging him, and instilling the kind of toughness that would shape his character forever. Imagine being a kid growing into your body, towering over your peers, unsure of your place in the world. Would you crumble under the weight of expectation? Or would you rise to embody it? From a young age, Shaq's size made him stand out. By 13, he was already over 6 feet tall, but size alone didn't make him a star. He had to develop skills, discipline, and confidence. In high school, he dominated, earning attention from across the country. But more than that, he began to embrace the idea that his difference, his extraordinary frame, wasn't a burden, but a gift. How often do we see our unique traits as flaws instead of strengths? What would happen if we embraced what sets us apart? Shaq took his talents to LSU, where he quickly became one of the most imposing forces in college basketball. His combination of size, agility, and skill was rare, almost unfair. He wasn't just tall, he was athletic, fast, and coordinated. At LSU, he became a national sensation, and the NBA quickly took notice. By 1992, he was drafted as the #1 overall pick by the Orlando Magic, stepping into the league as a player unlike anything the game had ever seen. Have you ever been in a situation where your presence alone changed the energy of a room, or in Shaq's case, an entire league? From the moment he entered the NBA, Shaq was unstoppable. He dunked with such force that he shattered backboards, broke rims, and had arenas scrambling to replace equipment. His physical dominance was unmatched, but it wasn't just about strength. It was about intimidation, confidence, and a will to impose himself on every game. What would it feel like to be so good at something that the very rules of the game had to adjust to you? Shaq's career spanned 19 seasons, with stops in Orlando, Los Angeles, Miami, Phoenix, Cleveland, and Boston. His resume sparkles: 4 NBA championships, 3 Finals MVPs, a league MVP, 15 All-Star appearances, and membership in the Hall of Fame. But what made him truly inspirational wasn't just the rings or the stats. It was the way he carried himself. Shaq brought fun to the game. He smiled, he joked, he entertained. He proved that greatness doesn't always have to be stern, serious, or grim. Isn't it refreshing to see someone dominate while still bringing joy to everyone watching? Of course, his peak years with the Los Angeles Lakers cemented his legend. Teaming up with Kobe Bryant, Shaq formed one of the most unstoppable duos in sports history. Together, they won 3 consecutive championships from 2000 to 2002. Shaq was the Finals MVP each time, dominating with power and precision in the paint. Yet, their partnership wasn't always smooth. Ego clashes and disagreements often made headlines. But isn't that true of most partnerships? When two great forces collide, conflict is inevitable. The real question is, how do you turn that tension into triumph? Shaq's rivalry-turned-brotherhood with Kobe is one of sports' most fascinating stories. For years, they battled not just opponents, but each other's pride. But in the end, they reconciled, respecting each other as warriors who had pushed one another to greatness. Isn't it powerful that sometimes the people who challenge us the most are the ones who help us grow the most? Who in your life pushes you, frustrates you, but ultimately makes you better? Beyond championships, Shaq was always thinking bigger than basketball. He ventured into acting, starring in movies like Blue Chips and Kazam. He became a rapper, releasing multiple albums and performing alongside big names. He stepped into broadcasting, where his humor and insight made him a fan favorite. Shaq wasn't afraid to try, to risk, to laugh at himself. How often do we stop ourselves from chasing something new because we're afraid of looking silly? What if we embraced Shaq's mindset, that life is too short not to explore every passion? But here's where Shaq's story becomes even more inspiring. Behind the larger-than-life personality is a man of generosity and heart. He has quietly donated millions to families in need, paid off strangers' debts, bought laptops for kids, and walked into stores to cover shoppers' bills. He doesn't just live large, he gives large. Isn't it beautiful to see that true greatness isn't just measured in accolades, but in impact? What would happen if we all used our resources, however big or small, to lift someone else up? Shaq also made education a priority. Despite being a superstar with fame and wealth, he went back to school, earning his bachelor's degree from LSU, then an MBA, and even a doctorate in education. He proved that learning never stops, that personal growth is just as important as professional achievement. Doesn't that challenge the excuse we often give ourselves, that we're too busy, too successful, or too old to keep growing? Even in retirement, Shaq has remained one of the most recognizable and beloved figures in the world. As an analyst on Inside the NBA, he brings humor, wisdom, and authenticity. He's not afraid to laugh at himself, to prank his co-hosts, or to deliver raw honesty. He's become a businessman, investing in franchises and building wealth smartly. Yet through it all, he's never lost the childlike joy that makes him so relatable. How often do we let life's pressures strip away our playfulness? What if we, like Shaq, chose to keep that spark alive, no matter how old we get? Shaquille O'Neal's legacy goes beyond basketball. Yes, he's one of the most dominant centers the game has ever seen. Yes, his stats and championships will always stand the test of time. But more than that, Shaq represents possibility. He represents the idea that you can be great and joyful, powerful and kind, dominant and generous. He shows us that life isn't just about achieving, but about enjoying and sharing the journey. So ask yourself, are you living small, shrinking yourself to fit in, or are you embracing your full presence like Shaq? Are you holding back your laughter, your talents, your gifts, or are you sharing them boldly with the world? Shaquille O'Neal teaches us that greatness isn't just about what you do, but about how you make people feel. He made fans smile, teammates better, opponents respect him, and communities stronger. And maybe that's the true measure of a legend. So when you think of Shaq, don't just think of the championships or the broken backboards. Think of the man who never let his size define him, but instead defined his size. Think of the man who brought joy to everything he touched. Think of the man who reminds us all, life is too short to be small. And the question he leaves us with is simple. What's stopping you from living big?